There is a specific kind of presence that pulls people in without them fully understanding why. It isn't about being the loudest, the most attractive, or the most accomplished person in the room. It's something quieter, something people feel before they can name it, and once you understand how it works, you realize it was never about performing for attention at all. It was about becoming the kind of person whose presence simply lingers in someone's mind long after the interaction ends. Why mystery creates a pull that openness never can. People are naturally drawn to what they cannot fully figure out. When someone reveals everything about themselves immediately, every opinion, every emotion, every detail of their life laid out in the first conversation, there is nothing left to wonder about. The mind stops working on them. But when someone reveals just enough to be interesting while keeping other parts of themselves private, something different happens. The listener's mind keeps working after the conversation ends, filling in the gaps, wondering, imagining, returning to the memory of that person even when they don't consciously intend to. This is why some people leave a lasting impression after a single short conversation, while others, despite talking for hours, are forgotten almost immediately. The forgettable ones usually gave away everything at once. The memorable ones left something unfinished, a subtle sense that there was more beneath the surface worth discovering. This isn't about being secretive or cold. It's about understanding that curiosity, once triggered, is one of the most powerful forces in how people think about you when you're not around. Why emotional steadiness draws people. In more than enthusiasm, most people assume that being obsessed over comes from being exciting, loud, or constantly entertaining. In reality, steady emotional presence often creates a far stronger pull. Someone who remains calm, grounded, and consistent, regardless of the situation, creates a sense of safety and stability that people are naturally drawn toward, especially in a world where most interactions feel rushed, reactive, and emotionally unpredictable. Think about the difference between someone who reacts to every piece of news with dramatic excitement or visible anxiety versus someone who listens fully, responds thoughtfully, and maintains the same calm presence regardless of what's being discussed. The second person, without trying, becomes someone others want to be around more, not because they're more entertaining, but because being near them feels different, steadier, more grounding than most other interactions people experience day to day. Why genuine attention feels rare and therefore valuable in a world full of distraction, where most people are half present even during direct conversation, checking their phone, thinking about their next comment, waiting for their turn to speak. Genuine undivided attention has become unusually rare. When someone offers full presence, real eye contact, real listening, real interest in what another person is saying without rushing to insert their own perspective, it creates an experience that feels almost disproportionately meaningful, simply because it's so uncommon. This is one of the quiet reasons certain people become difficult to forget. They weren't performing charm. They were simply fully present in a way most people rarely experience from anyone else in their life. That kind of attention registers deeply, even when the person receiving it can't quite explain why the interaction stuck with them the way it did. Why not needing approval makes people want to give it. There's a specific dynamic that occurs when someone doesn't visibly seek approval, attention, or validation from those around them. Paradoxically, this often makes people want to give it more, not less. When someone's sense of self clearly doesn't depend on being liked, admired, or validated by the room, people naturally become curious about earning their approval instead, almost as if it becomes something worth working for rather than something freely handed out. This isn't about playing games or deliberately withholding warmth to manipulate people into chasing you. It's a natural byproduct of genuine self-assurance. Someone who is comfortable existing without needing constant external validation carries a different kind of energy than someone visibly seeking approval at every turn. And people can sense this difference almost immediately, even if they can't articulate exactly what they're responding to. Why selective warmth creates more impact than constant friendliness warmth that is given to everyone equally, all the time, regardless of context, eventually loses its impact. It becomes expected, predictable, background noise rather than something meaningful. Warmth that is genuine but selectively expressed, reserved for moments that actually call for it rather than performed constantly out of habit, carries significantly more weight when it does appear. This means someone who is generally composed, measured, and reserved, but occasionally offers a genuine moment of warmth, real laughter, real interest, a real compliment, creates a much stronger impression than someone who is constantly smiling and agreeable without variation. The occasional warmth feels earned, specific, and real rather than automatic, and people remember specific, earned moments far more than constant, undifferentiated friendliness. Why consistency over time builds a pull that single interactions cannot. While first impressions matter, the deepest version of this pull develops through consistency over repeated interactions rather than any single encounter alone. Someone who remains the same, calm, genuine, and grounded across many different situations and moods becomes increasingly trusted and increasingly compelling over time, because people develop confidence that this presence is authentic rather than a performance limited to specific moments. This consistency creates a specific kind of reliability that people find magnetic in an unconscious way. They begin to associate that person with a specific feeling, calm, safety, genuine interest, and they find themselves seeking out that feeling again, often without consciously understanding why this particular person occupies more of their thoughts than others who may be objectively more exciting or conventionally impressive. Why this pull cannot be faked for long. It's worth noting that this kind of magnetic presence cannot be manufactured through technique alone if it isn't genuinely rooted in real self-assurance and authentic interest in others. People are remarkably good at sensing when warmth, calm, or interest is performed rather than real, even if they can't immediately articulate what feels off. Attempting to fake mystery, calm, or selective warmth without genuine substance behind it eventually reveals itself as hollow, and the pull that initially seemed to form quickly dissolves once the performance becomes apparent. This means the qualities described here work not because they are clever tactics, but because they reflect genuine internal qualities, self-assurance, presence, authentic interest in others that naturally produce these effects as a byproduct rather than a goal. Trying to shortcut this by performing the surface behaviors without developing the underlying substance rarely produces lasting results. Final message: people become drawn to certain individuals without fully understanding why, not because of some deliberate strategy, but because of a specific combination of genuine presence, emotional steadiness, and quiet self-assurance that most people rarely encounter in their daily interactions. This pull isn't built through performance or manipulation. It's built through becoming someone whose calm, attention, and warmth are genuine, consistent, and not dependent on needing something in return. Once that becomes real rather than performed, people notice, even if they can never quite explain what it is about you that they can't stop thinking about.